Hi, I'm Reverend Paula Skiles, the minister at Unity Church of San Marcos in San Marcos, Texas. Joining you this morning with a message I've entitled Soul's Growth. I'd like to share this thought with you from Reverend Dr. Benjamin Pratt, who once wrote these words. Holidays are history, and that's the way most of us approach the ancient traditions and family customs that we love to repeat each year. But the year-long cycle of Christian holidays are much more than that. These seasons are timeless, yet they also are very clear invitations to affirm our personal journey as God's people. One of the beauties that I love about Unity is that we do not feel that you have to be Christian to be God's people. And we acknowledge that every person in this world has the capacity to experience a sense of the divinity within them, around them, and as them. We are God's people. Sometimes we just don't realize it, and sometimes we don't show up that way, but we are all human beings. And so I thought I would talk about that which animates us, which animates our bodies, the soul and the spirit of God that is within us. And I'd like to take the words from a very wonderful Christian teacher, our wayshower, the one who in Christianity we hold to have lived the fullness of his divinity, and that is Jesus. So this morning, if you would, pretend with me and imagine that we're on this road of life with all of its twists and turns and a lot of dead ends. But we do have someone this morning who has something to help us walk that road where we don't have to feel that we are alone, even if we are walking it firsthand by ourselves. And so for a moment, again, pretend we're journeying. And as we take a step, the first words we hear, Our Father, which art in heaven. Now, Oliver Wendell Holmes once said that my religion is summed up in the first two words of Our Father, the Lord's Prayer. And everything I need to know about God, ourselves, and my relationship to other people, to me, is summed up in that prayer as well. Our Father, which art in heaven. Because it speaks to the fact that there is an intimacy with God. There is a relationship of parent and child. And regardless of what kind of relationship you had with your own parents, the holy relationship, the good relationship of that which is your relationship with God is so much different. But that God cares for us just like a parent would for a child. And our relationship is likened to being like God. And so, to me, that's a powerful, freeing statement. Our Father, which art in heaven. Now, that whole presence of spirit, heaven, is Jesus' full message for the whole of his lifetime of teaching, was about bringing heaven to earth. And so what is heaven? As I reflect on it, I recognize it's a state of mind, it's a consciousness in which you and I have a direct contact with spirit. That we experience the spiritual connection, not only in that mindset, but that we are able to embody that to the point where we express pure being as well. Whether it's peace or love, or whether it's beauty or strength or courage, whatever it is that you and I need to be in that moment of good. And heaven is that place in you and I, within our soul, a condition, if you will, of connecting, and so completely. And that was pretty powerful for a first step, don't you think? So here we go. We have another step to take. As we take that step, we hear the words, "Hallowed be thy name." Now, name in the Bible denotes the essence or character of a being. It's not a formal name like John or Mary or any of the other names that we might read about or see in our lives. Like you can call me Paula, or you could call me, and I recognize that name, but my name in the Bible is an expression of who I am and what I'm about. And in this case, hallowed be thy name is talking about God as holy, whole, healed, perfect. Altogether good is the way Jesus put it. And I'd like to share from James 3:11. The same fountain cannot send forth both sweet and bitter water. Jesus said God was altogether good. He even said, if you who are so full of evil nevertheless do your best for your children, how much more will God, who is altogether good, do for you? From Matthew 7:11. Now these verses are important because not only does it talk about the expression Jesus does of the parent relationship, but that God is good. Now this idea of evil, we're going to get back to that in a little bit. Don't worry, I'm going to talk about it too. But for now, hallowed be thy name. To me, that whole sentence or that whole statement is an affirmation of that good which is God comes forth. And nothing else can come through God or be of God. And so if you have a tendency to believe that God has created problems or brought trials or tribulations to your life, to me that's a misunderstanding of the nature of God and how God is in effect in our life. And it takes and makes our troubles bigger than they need to be because the power to overcome them is now seen as God's power. And that, to me, is unnecessary. And it doesn't help us. So it's time for another step. And we hear these words. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Thy kingdom come. To me is such a wonderful statement. But we have a tendency in this world to think of it as a physical realm, so to speak, some type of place where there is this persona of God who sits on a throne and is going to rule over us, benevolently, of course, but no. These words could be better understood as ruling or supreme counsel. Counsel of God. The advice, the wisdom, the understanding, the presence of God, giving you and me that sense of truth in our lives that helps us, and it overcomes all the mindsets we may have or the belief systems that we hold that would not serve us well. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And I think about that. First of all, it's important to recognize earth basically is the realm of manifestation. It's my body, your body. It's the things we see, you and I see physically. But more than that, earth represents the matter. And heaven, of course, represents the invisible realm of that which is standing under or behind or makes up that which comes into matter. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So what is God's will? I don't know about you, but there have been times in my life where I was afraid of what God's will for me might mean because I had this idea of God as some autocratic ruler who really didn't have any idea of how difficult my life might have been or what I might need. I didn't trust God. I really didn't. And I had ideas and opinions, but when I was able to let go of this idea of the persona and understand Jesus' words that God is spirit, God is love, pure love, something shifted for me. How do we get to know what is God's will? For me, it's always been about being willing to get still in prayer and meditation. What a journey. Listen as Jesus steps forth again. Give us this day our daily bread. I'm reminded of Moses, who each day had to get his people to take the manna that was offered and that they couldn't have but just one day's worth. And I feel that that manna that they tried to hold on to becomes deadly. It became diseased. That's the same kind of thing I think that you and I have a tendency to do is we get an idea of how things are supposed to be and how things have to be in order for them to be right. And it's not good for us. It's not healthy. And asking for our daily bread is that which feeds our soul, that which enlivens us, that which helps us to take the actions that you and I need in life in order to uplift, to make life better, not just on a financial way or not just, from some arbitrary sense of, okay, things have to be done just like this, but more from that presence. So daily bread is recognizing that each day you and I go forth into the world, or even just living our lives, however you go about it. We need that connection to spirit, that truth that our spiritual rituals bring to us, our spiritual practices help us to live. And so that which motivates, uplifts, feeds, enlivens, that's our daily bread. Spirit is, not was. Daily. You and I are here. This is how you and I exist, is in a day-to-day moment. And so I would offer that thought for us this morning, is that it's important to recognize that. Now our next step, and this is going to ask us to take a leap of faith. Listen now. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those that trespass against us. Okay. There's that big word, forgiveness. And yet, it is such a big part of our soul's growth. When you and I are able to not only forgive ourselves and to forgive others, what we have done is we have embodied the essence of what it means to be a mature spiritual being. Forgiveness is such a powerful, powerful resource or skill, or however you want to think of that, but it is something that is essential for you and I to grow into a sense of knowing Spirit's presence. Forgive us as we forgive others. Why is that? Because when you and I focus on resentment, condemnation, anger, jealousy, whatever it is, that becomes the focus. We get locked into it. We literally imprison ourselves in this vein of thought. And we are not free. Yeah, we may be walking around, but our emotions are tied. They're chained, literally. And our mind will keep coming back to that. We will find that circumstance in other bodies. And it's going to be this person or that person. And we'll have another reason for that same resentment or even another resentment. But that's what'll happen is you and I are not able to let ourselves ask God to help us to forgive. Because I recognize that sometimes I can be fairly childish. And our souls don't always have a level of maturity. And so that's when we have to fall back on that power of Christ, the power of God within you and I, to do that which we can't do for ourselves. And that is to do the forgiveness, to make it happen in us, to make that something, even though it may take us over and over of asking, that we finally let that go. And we move into accepting ourselves and releasing ourselves and others. Another step, and Jesus says, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. I don't think that God in any way subjects us to temptation. Rather, I believe this statement is an acknowledgement that as you and I live life, the uncertainties and the difficulties that we come across and all of the things that come up for us to live and to address are going to tempt us to step away from love or our peace of mind or any number of things that don't represent a greater good in our lives. And so this statement is acknowledging that as we experience those times of uncertainty, God can and does have the capacity to take us out of that mindset, to help us move out of that which is called evil. Now, what is evil? Now, we're coming back to that. I told you we would. Evil really could better be understood, literally meaning that which causes suffering. Suffering. And if you are able to translate, anytime you see the word evil in the Bible as that which causes suffering, not only does it tend to take the power away, but what we understand is it only has the power that you and I give it. Evil does not have power in and of itself. Only the power that you and I give it. And that is so important to know. I resonate with this concept because I've heard this before, and maybe you have too. Evil is the word live spelled backwards. And to me, it's just backwards living. And as you and I stay in that place of suffering, we're not able to go forward on our journey, on our soul's growth. We're kind of stuck in that place as we are with suffering. And so I invite us to think about, we can claim our power to overcome suffering. We can. Ask, and it shall be done. Well, I've offered this morning the Lord's Prayer as a formula for the development of our soul. I've used it, and I found that by using it meaningfully and with understanding, it has helped me to grow and to share in my life. Doesn't mean I've got it perfect yet, but there is that pattern within me and you. And as you and I stand now at the crossroads, about to go on our own ways in this moment, I invite you to listen one more time to these words. Be merciful as your Father is merciful. Luke 6:36. Jesus echoes the ancient commandment, be holy as I, the Lord your God, am holy. Leviticus 19:2. Jesus imparted the face of mercy to God. To God's holiness, mercy for everyone, is unconditional love. It is the pattern that you and I are meant to express and live. It is the future of humankind and God's will for us. Mercy. And may the one who calls you into eternal life bless you with a sense of good in your world eternally. May you know and become an instrument of peace, love, hope, compassion, and forgiveness to all whom you encounter. God bless you, and thank you for being with me